It does. And council says something needs to happen. The question is, what exactly needs to be done? All of this going on as police are facing tougher situations when responding to emergencies.
Even when people do need 911 services, we're not able to respond in an adequate amount of time.
It was a bleak staffing update to the Seattle City Council members today on where the police department stands. From January to March of this year, 43 officers separated from the department. They only hired 13. Much worse than the initial projections.
Our whole level of patrol is pretty much working some level of overtime.
As crime rates increase, Interim Police Chief Adrian Diaz saying officers are putting in more work to try and fill the growing gaps.
Our priority 1 call response time has gone up, as well as our priority 2 calls has actually exceeded over 30 minutes. And our priority 3 calls is almost over an hour.
So council members are looking at ways to address these issues. One way would come through a resolution presented by Councilmember Sarah Nelson that could open a door to hiring incentives.
We're not doing anything else, and this is low-hanging fruit to fill a need to put more officers on the street, as I said, to fight, prevent, and investigate crime. We heard a lot of numbers today, but the bigger picture is that people are dying.
But today, Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda questioning whether monetary incentives are the right approach, also pointing out another challenge.
The city is currently facing a long-term structural budget issue.
Ultimately, this part of the meeting, that took up some time, had an abrupt ending.
I actually do have.
I would like to close conversation now.
Excuse me.
And move on to the next item. We have 2 more items on our agenda, and so I would like to close debate. Thank you.
Seattle City Council members have a lot more on this topic to discuss. We're going to monitor this for you and how this develops in future meetings, and we'll keep you updated. We'll send it back to you.
KOMO caught up with Mayor Bruce Harrell to get his take on hiring bonuses. He told us that nothing is off the table, but he feels there might be better incentives.
A lot of things such as tuition assistance, a great morale, housing subsidies, little things like upping a uniform allowance. And so what we're trying to do, I'm all for any tool that will work to get some of the great officers in our department, train them properly. So we're looking at everything. So I'm not saying we are against them, but I'm simply saying is this the most effective tool?
We want to know what you think. A KOMO News poll asks if the city of Seattle should pay bonuses to hire or retain police officers. Take a look. At last check, 75% of you said yes, 25% said no. If you want to weigh in, just look for this poll on our website.
Yeah, Mary, those victims are worried nothing will be different since Jay has been through this process, served his time, got out of jail, only to be accused of other violent, unprovoked attacks. They say justice will never be found if he's allowed to get back on the streets again.
The attacks were disturbing and brutal. Alexander J. is accused of randomly shoving a woman down the stairs at a light rail station, then beating her. 30 minutes later on that March day, prosecutors say he's seen on Metrobus video stabbing a woman 10 times.
It is awful because I know what he is capable of. It was put in our faces.
Today, the court found him incompetent to stand trial and ordered him to get restoration. That means he has to stay in a mental facility like Western State for 3 months until he convinces experts he understands the charges against him.
It's our intention for him to be held accountable, to get justice for victims, just like we did in the last case with this individual. We're not dropping these felony cases.
Jay went through the same competency restoration process in a 2020 burglary case where he was convicted of smashing into an 89-year-old grandma's house. Her neighbors Gary and Melissa intervened, holding Jay at gunpoint until police arrived.
That it could have been so much worse.
He was prone to violence. The guy needed to be arrested. I wasn't going to let him go.
Court documents show in the burglary case restoration evaluation, a psychologist wrote, Mr. J's risk for both future dangerousness and reoffending would significantly increase should he engage in substance use or discontinue psychotropic medication. Jay served his time in line with state guidelines, but 2 weeks after he got out of jail, he was accused in the violent attacks against the 2 women.
He can't come out.
Whether or not he gets treatment in jail, so be it. But he deserves to stay in jail.
More of the antiviral COVID-fighting drug Paxlovid is headed to our state. That was just announced by the White House. And as KOMO's Keith Eldridge tells us, there are going to be easier ways to get that life-saving pill.
It's considered a game changer. Paxlovid antiviral medication.
Well, I think Paxlovid has the potential to be a knockout drug.
Virologist Dr. John Schwartzberg says the drug has shown to be 90% effective on keeping people out of the hospital and keep them from dying.
Started out with a runny nose and some coughing, assumed it might be COVID since we had traveled.
Consumer man Herb Weisbaum got COVID and is now being treated with Paxlovid.
How quickly did it work?
After the first full dose, about 24 hours, we broke the fever and started to feel dramatically better. Totally lethargic before, no energy. While we still felt sort of rotten afterward, we did feel much better, and I'm glad we took it.
Not only is the White House sending more doses and having more pharmacies offer it, it's also encouraging more pharmacies to set up what are called test-to-treat sites.
The hope is that you can go to a clinic and a pharmacy, see a healthcare provider who can test you, and then assess whether you are eligible and could benefit from these antiviral treatments. Write you a prescription, and then you can get your prescription filled right there.
And if another variant shows up in a few months, Dr. Schwartzberg says the antivirals are going to become even more important.
What's going to stand between life and death really is going to be a drug like Paxlovid and some of these other drugs we have available.
If you get COVID, don't stay at home and say, I'm going to tough it out. Contact your doctor. There are now medications they can give you to ease the suffering and help you get back on your feet more quickly. Paxlovid isn't the only one, but it is one of them.
Keith Eldridge, KOMO News.
Hi, everyone. I'm Preston Phillips from KOMO News. Thanks for checking out the KOMO YouTube channel. You can see more of our videos right here by clicking on the video links for more news from the Seattle area and Western Washington. Oh, and don't forget to click the subscribe button below so you don't miss our YouTube updates.